Hi, good evening everybody. Welcome back for Cooking with Chief Tony. Tonight we are going to do some shrimp tacos with some Mexican rice and beans, and if we have interest, I will show you my salsa. So tonight it is just me. I'm going solo, so you're going to have to bear with me when it comes to the camera angles. Tonight's shirt is coming from NavyChief.com. So HooyahNavyChief.com. If you're a Navy Chief out there in a Chief's mess somewhere and you want me to represent the mess from your location, I'm more than happy to do so. DM me for my address and so forth. But tonight, again, it's just me, so bear with me with the camera angles and so forth. I hope you're all doing well. Real quick, I would like to put in a plug-in for those that know. I'm the President Director of Operation Sacred Response Foundation, which provides care backpacks for homeless vets and care packages to deployed service members. And so please go and take a look at our Facebook page on Operation Sacred Response Foundation. We are doing a care package campaign, so please get out there and take a look. But otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. So tonight is going to be fairly simple. I've already pre-chopped a lot of our stuff, but I am going to go over the little tips and tricks of what I do when it comes to the shrimp tacos. Again, I hope the connection is good, but it is just me tonight. So again, bear with me, guys. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So I'm going to go ahead and actually show you over here what it is that I have going on over here. So this is for our salsa. So I have in a pot, I have some Roma tomatoes, regular tomatoes. I've got some jalapenos. I went ahead and chopped some onions, but normally you would put an onion in here. That helps with the process of all of the bringing out the flavors and so forth when we do our salsa. I kind of already started our rice a little bit, but I'm going to show you what it is that I do with the rice. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do another batch for you just to see what it is that I do. This is my mother's recipe. So hopefully I do her proud. So rice was never my major my major being in the kitchen. It's all my mom. So Mom, I hope I do good. I hope it turns out okay. So what I'm just going to show you as we go along here. So I use olive oil. It doesn't have to be extra virgin olive oil. It can just be olive oil. I turn on my pan to a medium high heat right at the moment, just because I want to get the pan warm, but I am going to turn it down just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put some oil in here, just so that way I can go ahead and brown the rice. Okay, so I'm just going to let that sit for just a moment, kind of move it around the pan a little bit. I hope everybody's doing well, had a great week. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to let that warm on medium, okay? I'm just going to move that back. So over here, and I'm just going to move this over here so you can actually see. So I'm going to go ahead and take some rice, and I'm going to put in about a cup. And I'm actually going to go ahead and just pour it in here, okay? So excuse me. And again, I hope everybody's doing well. All right. So, there's a little bit there. That's fine. So, some people like to wash the rice. I'm not going to wash the rice, so pardon me if that seems dirty to you. And that's personal preference. It doesn't matter to me. All right. So, I'm just going to go ahead and stir this with my wooden spoon. Hi, Mama Rosie. How are you? All right. So, I'm just going to go ahead and mix this around. And it may seem like there's a lot of oil there, but there isn't. I promise there isn't. There's just enough. You don't, and again, I don't measure. I just eyeball it, so you kind of saw what I did. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and mix this up in there. I'm not going to put any seasoning or anything like that in here just yet. I just went ahead and put my rice in there. Okay, So there's my salsa stuff in the back. My tomatoes, my jalapenos, stuff like that, okay? All right, let's go back. Hey, Mama Rosie, can you go ahead and share this? Share this with all your friends. Hey, Pop, I see you're on. All right. But that's not safe. You're not supposed to be driving and watching at the same time. You can, but Dad can't. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let that brown just a little bit, okay? So let's go ahead and go back over here. So again, I used 2 onions, 2 medium-sized onions. Here we go. So I used 2 medium-sized onions. I have some garlic here that I minced. And here's some of my other ingredients. I have some regular cilantro that I went ahead and cut up. I have some Oaxaca cheese, and I have some lemon that I went ahead. And then I also cut up some red cabbage. And so anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some of my onion over here. And as you'll see in just a moment, I'm going to put some of that in here. But I want to go ahead and brown the rice. And you want to make sure that it's browned and not burned. So that's why you have to kind of watch it a little closely, okay? So while we have that going, I'm just going to turn it up just a little bit. Dirty rice. That's funny. I love it, Gilbert. If they only knew how dirty it was. No, I'm kidding. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and stir this a little bit because, like I said, it's already starting to brown, which is great. Okay. So I'm just going to continue to let that brown. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add my onions right now just because it is already browning. It's browning pretty quickly, which is fine. Again, you just want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on it. So I would say that's probably about a good half of an onion right there that I've diced. It's okay. I like to leave my onions a little longer. If you have family or if you don't like onions, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to put it in there. Chris, you don't know what bad is. But anyway, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to let that cook for a little bit, and the rice is going to brown still a little bit more. So I want to make sure that I'm not doing it too much, and I'm going to turn that down on a low medium heat just because it has warmed up just a little bit more and is browning a little bit faster than I like it to, and I want it to be brown and not burnt. And it actually smells really, really good in here. All right, I love the smell of cooking onions in my house, especially from my kitchen. All right, so as you can see, we've got a brown. It's a little hard to see in my kitchen with all the lights on, but it's browned a little bit, and I can't zoom in. I wish I could. Dadgum phones, man, I tell you. You would think for some of the stuff that they have, they would be able to do it. All right, so. Oh, there it is. Oh, I guess it's just the operator. So anyway, as you can see, it's a little brown. I'm still going to brown it a little bit while I'm getting that ready. And I'm going to zoom back out here. I'm going to go ahead and get my tomato sauce. I have a can of tomato sauce. And I'm going to go ahead and get my water. So for every cup of rice, you want to go ahead and get a cup and a half of water. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this. About a cup and a half of water, and it's fine if it's a little over and it's a little under. Hey Mom, how's it going? I'm making your rice. Hopefully I'm doing it right. Hopefully I'm not butchering it too much. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn you back here. So as you can see, our rice is still browning just a little bit, and it's perfect. I think it's fine. If you want it a little darker, that's fine too. But for me personally, I think it's already dark enough. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go ahead and put in my tomato sauce. And remember, our burner is already, it's a little choppy. Okay, I'm going to try. I'm doing my best here, Aletha. I apologize. Bear with me. So I'm mixing in my tomato sauce. I'm mixing my tomato sauce, and then I'm going to go ahead and actually add my water at the same time. And remember, it's 1.5 cups of water. And then I'm going to make sure that I turn this up just a little bit because we want this to boil just a little bit. Okay? Maybe if I don't move so fast, Aletha, maybe it won't be so bad. I hope not. Okay, so while that is actually cooking right there, I'm just going to set that right there. So I've already kind of pre-done a little bit already. So let's go ahead and take a look at the progress already. So this is in one of my portable electric skillets. I've already done everything that we're doing on the batch that we have just started. And so this is what it's going to look like. And it's still cooking a little bit more. It still has a little bit left to go. But as you can see, it's a little bit softer and it has a little bit more, it has a little bit of juice left to absorb and work through, but it's a little bit softer and it's already worked its way through. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and do salt and pepper, and we are going to go ahead and you know I don't measure this stuff. Alright, so I'm just going to take my salt. I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle it in there a little bit. And I'm going to take my pepper, and I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle that in there a little bit. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of hesitation from the pepper, but that's fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix it like that, and then I'm just going to do it to taste. So again, everything that I do is going to be to taste. So if you like less salt, if you like more salt, if you like more pepper or less pepper or no pepper, that's all up to you. So again, going back to our ingredients for this is 1 cup of rice, 1 can of tomato sauce. I would say about 1/2 of a regular medium-sized onion, and then salt, pepper, and you also want to have 1/2 cup of water, or 1.5 cups of water, excuse me, and then you're gonna let it cook, and you're gonna let it boil. And so then I'm gonna go back to the other one because I'm gonna show you the process, because in that one, so you're also gonna add more water to it in just a little bit. So as you can see, we're starting to boil here a little bit. And that's what you want it to. You want it to boil just enough. You don't want it to boil too much here. So we're going to wait and let it boil just a little bit more, because you want it to start simmering a little bit, but you don't want it to simmer too long. Alright, so let's go ahead. We're going to go back over here, and I'm going to show you how I actually do my minced garlic. So this is minced garlic that I just bought at the store today, and it came in the regular clove. It is completely covered with the skin and everything like that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it around, and you're just going to see the garlic. And I'm going to show you how I actually take it off, or take the skins off. Hopefully everybody can see that. Okay, so what I go ahead and do is I actually take my blade and I actually mash it down. And you want to be safe with this because obviously you're dealing with a knife. So I take this and I mash it down, and you're going to have breaks in the skin. And it's okay, it's not going to be perfect. The garlic is not going to come out perfect, but there you've just skinned a part of your garlic, and it was so easy to come undone. So, and it comes off just like that. It's fairly simple. And so I'm going to do another one just so that way you guys can, just so that way you can see me do it again. Again, I already did this with most of the clove before. And I'm just going to piece it out that way. And there you go. Just like that. And that was fairly simple, fairly easy. Some people like to use the ends. Some people don't. Toss that in the sink. And again, toss it in the sink. So that's just one way of doing it. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to our rice because our rice is actually starting to boil and bubble a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and stir it, and I'm going to turn it down on low. And I'm actually going to go ahead and cover it up because I want to make sure that it's good to go. Okay? So now, while that's actually cooking, we're actually going to go ahead and start, believe it or not, with the beans. Now, I know this might sound silly that, you know, why is he teaching me how to make canned refried beans, or refried beans from a can? It's because I happen to do mine a little differently than most. And I'm actually going to go ahead and set you down for just a moment as I move one of my big pots here that has our stuff for our salsa. But I like to improv a little bit when it comes to my beans. So I'm going to go ahead and move this real quick. All right. So I'm going to put it on my back burner, and I'll kind of show you what we got going on here. So I'm just going to put it on the back burner because it's going to cook on low, right? Now I've already pre-opened my cans that I'm going to use. So when I actually do my refried beans and so forth, I actually use black beans as well. So I'm going to turn on my burner, and I'm going to put it on low because I don't want it to cook very fast. I want it to actually cook really slow because everything is going to cook. I want everything to be done together. So as you can see, I went ahead and I have my can of black beans. I like to boil my own beans if I have time, but you know, the way work has been going these days, who has time for that? So I just add a can of black beans, and this is, you know, Bush's, but it doesn't really matter which one you use, honestly. So I'm going to go ahead, and now if anybody knows refried beans, it's not going to be so easy to get out, right? So, and I get the Rosarita. I've always used Rosarita, and this is what I do. So I'm just going to let it sit like that, and I'm going to let gravity I'm going to let gravity and the heat from the actual can, or from the pot, to actually loosen it up a little bit. And while that's going, I'm going to go ahead and head back over here. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at our rice over here. So let's go back to the rice that we had kind of already finished. And that's what it's going to look like, folks. It's almost finished. So it's on a very low heat right now, and it is just literally, you know, just kind of softening up, finishing up the cooking and stuff like that. Okay? We got multiple pots of rice going on here, folks. All right, so in just a moment, we're actually going to go ahead and start our shrimp for our tacos. So again, I'm just going to keep checking our refried beans there. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and start getting my pan ready for my shrimp. Okay, so I'm going to turn you back around here. And so as you can see, I've got my pan on here, and I love my pans. These are amazing. I'm actually going to put it on low, and I'm going to tell you why. Because A, It's, you know, it's going to cook really fast if you don't, and you don't want the pan too hot when it comes to the shrimp. So I'm actually going to turn you around for just a moment. So there was a little trick that I learned a long time ago. Some people know it, some people don't, when it comes to shrimp. So I've defrosted my shrimp, and I get the medium sized. And some people, I rinse my shrimp, some people don't, just because you never know what's going on. But I try to get as much as I can out of the shrimp. So what I do is I pinch the tail right there, and it comes completely out. So you get all of the shrimp. Some people actually leave part of the shrimp tail in there, and that's perfectly fine if that's what you want to do. But I like my bang for my buck. So again, I'm just going to pinch right there, and then I just pull out like that, and then you get a pretty much clean out right there. So I've already done that to all of our shrimp over here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to actually, so I use my butter, so I'm going to get my butter, and I'm going to come back and get my minced garlic. So I'm going to use my minced garlic, my salt, my pepper, my butter to go ahead and get it started. The pan has already started warming up, so I'm not really too concerned about, is the butter going to melt or having to really wait for the butter to melt. For those that know, I really don't measure. This is my measuring tools right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some of that in here. And, it's already kind of warmed up, so you can kind of see it melting already. I'm just going to take a little bit of this, and I'm not going to actually reuse this for butter, so I'm just going to take a little bit, just the tip, and I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there. Okay, so that's minced garlic that I just did today, and then I'm going to take my wooden spoon, and this is a ginormous spoon, y'all. It's really funny. I love it. It's for my big pots, but I use it for everything practically. So I'm just going to go ahead and butter up my pan a little bit. Oh, that's good to know. You know what, Steve? I didn't even really think of that. I didn't know that. So that's awesome to know. You can also open the other side, and it slides right. Oh, it slides right out. Okay, awesome. Well, that's good to know. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that kind of finish warming up here, and I'm just going to set that there. Okay, so I'm also going to use a little bit of my pepper. And so I love to use chili powder when I can. I don't use it a whole lot because not everybody can withstand it. And I'm also going to use a little bit of cumin. So, and I'm just going to show you here. So I go to my little Mexican store right down the street, La Bonita in Las Vegas, and, Walmart chili powder, but, I get my little bag of cumin and my salt and my pepper. And so I'm actually going to go ahead and put this in before, because I'm going to build a roux a little bit. So, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a moment. And then I'm going to throw my shrimp in. So, all right, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and set you down for just a moment, and so you can kind of see a little bit of how I do it here. Again, I thank you for your patience and your understanding. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle, and I'm going to turn this just a little bit. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit right in there, and I'm just going to put some of my salt in here, and I'm going to put some of my pepper, and I'm going to put some of my cumin in here. So and I try to line the pan, guys. That's mainly what I'm doing. So here, I'll show you. So I've gone ahead and I've just kind of gotten this together. Now, I'm going to go ahead and throw in my shrimp in just a moment. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit just because we want it to cook a little bit better or a little bit faster than what we got going on here. And so some of the juice from the shrimp came out, which is great because we need that to add to the flavor a little bit. So it's on a medium heat, so I'm just going to go ahead and stir this around. And I'm just going to let this sit for just a moment. I'm going to go back over here to my refried beans. And at this point, it's starting to move. Gravity is really doing its job. So is the heat from the pan. And so here we're back over to our rice, which I'm going to stir it real quick. Okay, so now we're getting to a point here. As you can see, the tomato juice or the tomato sauce is kind of still at the top a little bit, but you can see that we're starting to dry out. The rice is absorbing on the water. So here in just a moment, we're going to add just enough water to go over the top of the rice. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cover that back up. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. It's already on low, but it's already doing that. And we got bubbles in the back. I'm going to make sure that that's again on low. And here in just a moment, I'm actually going to use a spoon to go ahead and take the rest of that out. Thank you for that tip, Steve. I appreciate that. So again, I'm just kind of turning this in. Oh, well, it looks like we got some shrimp that got by us. Again, so I'm just going to squeeze the tail a little bit. Comes right out. Pan is warm, but it's not completely hot, so I'm good to go. And there we go. Clean out. All right. So as you can see, the shrimp is actually starting to turn red a little bit, which means it's starting to cook, and is almost cooked. Oh, we got one more. See? Don't catch everything. I guess the chief is slipping. His attention to detail tonight is just on the rocks. Jeez Louise, fire that guy. Alright, so shrimp is cooking and we've got our roux a little bit, and as you can see it's bubbling just a little bit down there. We're going to continue to let it bubble just a little bit. I'm going to set that there. Let us go back to our rice that we had previously that I had done before. So this is ultimately what our rice is going to look like, guys. And it smells really, really good. I'm actually going to turn this off because it's done cooking. I'm just going to let it sit in this pan. But look how good that... Mom, hopefully I did you justice. I really do. I really hope I did. I'm going to taste it, guys. Yep, needs to sit just a little bit longer, but it's... Oh, that's good. Okay, so I'm going back over here. Our shrimp is on the move. Does anybody have any questions or anything? I feel like it's very quiet tonight. You guys are very quiet. Okay, so while that cooks, I'm going to go ahead and take that, take out the refried beans with a spoon after all, just so we can move things along. All right. So here we go. I left the spoon in there because I'm going to need to stir that here in just a minute. So you want to go ahead and cook that as much as you want. You can darken it as much as you want or as light as you want. You just want to make sure that it's completely cooked all the way. I like mine with a little brown on the edges of it, a little darker brown. So that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of our chopped cilantro that we already have. And I am going to go ahead and sprinkle some of that in here, just to kind of give it a little extra something here. I'm going to turn that down. As you can see, we got some really good looking shrimp right here. So again, I put some cumin in there, and I used some red chili powder, and we got some salt and pepper. Put some minced garlic in there, and then I just put some cilantro. Okay, so I'm going to turn that down, and we're going to go back to our rice. We're always going between rices here, guys. So this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to add a little bit more water, and again, I'm going to add water just enough to cover the rice. So let's travel back to the back to the sink, back to the kitchen. Wow, I'm really slipping today, guys. All right, so we got our water here, and I've got just enough extra if I need to. But let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and show you. So I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle that over, pour that over, and just enough to cover it. And I'm going to go ahead and flatten that out a little bit because I don't want too much water. So we got just enough to cover it. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that up just a little bit. And I'm going to cover it up, and we're just going to let it cook. So, and that's pretty much it, guys. So, other than the salt and the pepper. So we're going to go back to our shrimp. And I love the color on this. And our refried beans in the background. Oh, they look so sad. It's okay. They're doing exactly what I need them to do. So the juice that was left over from the black beans is perfect because it's going to add a little bit of, I would say, a little bit of reinforcement of the breakdown for the refried beans. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix those together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn our shrimp off, and I'm actually going to go ahead and put them in a clean bowl because we're going to come back to them in just a moment because we need to fry our shells. But in just a moment, we're going to actually start our salsa. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set you down for just a moment. Again, I appreciate everybody's understanding of this. Hopefully the connection is good and everybody is actually being able to see this with no problems. Alright, so I'm actually going to let that cool off for just a moment. And this is what our shrimp looks like. Oh, doesn't that look great? Hot, Demi. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to try this out. That is on point. On point. Okay, so earlier I had shown you our big pot. This is our tomatoes, our jalapenos. Alright, so what I'm going to do here in just a moment is I'm actually going to show you how my mom makes her salsa. This is my mom, Julie. This is her salsa, and this is how she makes it. And again, Mom, I'm sorry if I butcher this. Yikes. The pressure of all of this. It's just too much. Can't handle it. No, I love it. I love it. I love being in the kitchen. I love all of this. And I get part of my cooking skills from my mama, and the other part from my grandma, and the other part from my godmother. And what they didn't teach me, I taught myself. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm actually going to, I just plugged in my blender, and I have a fresh bunch of cilantro, and I'm going to go ahead and set you down for just another moment, and I'm actually going to go ahead and bring over our tomatoes and our jalapenos. So, all right, so over here I boiled it earlier, and I kind of let it sit a little bit on the stove. It softened some of the tomatoes, so, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I have no problem with it because it's salsa, so I want it to be a little runny. I don't want pico de gallo. I want actual salsa, and I like it to be, you know, a little wet. But I always chop off the ends, so I'm going to chop off some of my jalapenos. And so my mom said, and we were talking on the phone earlier today, she said, Mijo, make sure that you have that you get jalapenos that have the lines down the sides of them, because those are the hot ones. You get the other ones like this one, and this one's more like a bell pepper, according to my mom. And Mom knows best, right? So anyway, I have a couple in here that have the line down the side of it, and so it's going to be a little hot. So if you don't like spice, don't put them. I'm just going to go ahead and break that down just a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to pull that one out just a little bit, you know, and just have fun with it, you know. So, you know, and for those, again, that don't really know me, I throw all the extras in the sink. It's just me. And I'm going to go ahead and take off the tops of my tomatoes. I hate the top of the tomato, but I use everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and break down my tomatoes, and I'm not going to use all of them. I have two different types of tomatoes. I have Roma tomatoes, and I have regular tomatoes. This one looks like it should be on a 1980s spaghetti commercial. Just saying. But anyway, but it's big and thick and looks great. Look at that ginormous. That's local produce, guys. Shop local. All right, so I'm breaking it down. Do I have to with a blender? With my cheap one, yes, you do. Depending upon your blender will depend on, you know, how well that breaks down. Okay, so my water's still a little warm, but I can actually still use it, right? So, and again, wash your hands, guys. My hands are washed, they're clean, and I'm the only one eating, so screw it. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut that down. But again, these ginormous tomatoes. So as you can see, some of the skin is starting to fall off, and that's perfectly fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and break it down just a little bit, and I'm going to use the skin. I'm going to use all of my tomato with the exception of the little top that I hate. I absolutely hate them. But anyway, they're a pain in the butt. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull just a little bit of the cilantro, just a little bit, a handful, and I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and take some of my onion, which I left over here in the back, and I'm going to go ahead and just put some of that in there. And again, I diced all of my onions. So all you got to do is just break it down just enough to where it's going to work for your blender. So I'm going to go ahead and show you here real quick what we have going on. So this is what it's going to look like. See, so we got our tomatoes, we got some Roma, we've got some regular tomatoes in there, and we've got cilantro, we've got some jalapenos, and we got some onions. So I'm going to go ahead, and I know it's going to be loud. I'm sorry, guys. It is what it is. This is what we get. when we want to be chefs. So I'm going to go ahead and turn you around here, and we're going to go ahead and just start our blender. And I'm just going to go ahead and I want to make sure that it's pureed. Like, I really want it to be good. So So this is what it looks like right at the moment. Now, okay, yeah, it's hot and it's a little green, and that's perfectly fine. So then what I'm going to do, and I'm going to bring you back here. So I'm going to add more tomatoes to it. I'm just going to use more tomatoes. And you be the judge of what color you want it to be. Actually, I'll be honest, I have... Well, actually, and Mama Rosie, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. I was actually going to add, I was just going to say, I'm going to add just a tiny bit of the water that I boiled it in, just to give it a little extra, you know, a little extra help here. But like I said, so I love my salsa to be red, and some people, some companies, some people put dye in theirs to make it red. Mine is a natural red. Actually, mine comes out a little bit pink, but it still has all of the flavor, and it still has all of the everything that you're looking for in a salsa. Okay, so let me get some of that juice out of here, out of a little bit of the water, and that was just not even 1/3 of a cup, guys. So again, I'm going to add a little bit more cilantro. You can add as much or as little as you want. I love onions. I like cilantro. I love it all when it comes to this. So, you know, it's going to be up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this back on, and I'm going to turn it up. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's see again what we got going on here. So that's again what it looks like, and it's turned a little red. So I'm going to add a little bit more, and that's what we got left, guys. Like literally, that was practically full. Of course, it's big tomatoes, but you know that's practically it. So these ginormous tomatoes, local produce. Oh my God! And here in Vegas, of all places, you would never guess. You would never guess the produce that people have. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to chop these up. And I have not made this previous, so you guys are seeing this as I'm doing it for tonight's dinner, which, who's coming over for dinner? But, all right. So I'm going to add a little bit more cilantro in there, and again, a little bit more onions. I'm only adding a little bit as I go because it's just me. And I, again, love onions and cilantro and all that. So, again, sorry for the noise. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. This is what we got going on here, guys. This is it. So I'm going to go ahead right now, and I would not do it justice if I didn't add a little salt and a little pepper, because that's going to give us the little extra flavor that we need for this. So as you can see, I've already put in a little bit right here. Let me go ahead and turn it around. So I've already put in a little bit, but you got to remember, we got to blend this to get it all the way through. So it's got to go all the way down there. So it's not just going to sit there at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more pepper, or I'm going to add a little pepper to our salsa. Okay, and that's going to be just enough. So again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to blend it just so that way it can get all the way down there at the bottom. I'm going to set you down here and we're going to go ahead and blend away real quick. Okay, so now I have it blended. It's gone through pretty good, but you can always go for a little bit longer. It's going to be up to you and how you want to do it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to taste it because I really want some. I've been craving. I actually made some and canned it not that long ago. Woo, that's good, and it's got a nice kick to it. Mom, you'd be proud. Promise. Oh yeah, there's a nice kick to that. Hello. Hello, hello. All right, so let's go back to our rice, and our rice looks like it's pretty much finished. I'm just going to go ahead and stir this real quick. So the rice that we started when we first began our show is almost finished. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, and I'm going to let it cook. Just going to let that finish cooking there. I'm going to turn up our beans because they are just about finished, but I want to make sure that we get them completely finished. So what I do separately, other than just adding regular black beans, is I add a little bit of cheese to it. Now that may not sound like a whole lot of, whatever to some people, but it's all about the cheese, guys. It's all about the cheese and how you do it. So I have some Oaxaca cheese that I got at my local Mexican store, and I'm just going to add that in there. You can honestly add, if you don't have Oaxaca, I use Colby Jack as well, Colby Monterey Jack as well, and that seems to help. Give it a little extra flavor. And now that that's actually warmed up quite a bit, I turn that down to low, and I'm just going to let that sit. Okay, so now here is a big question. Are you a fried or are you an unfried shell person? It depends. For this dish, I'm actually going to go ahead and do a little fry, okay? I like both, but it also depends on the type of tortilla that you have, because that's also going to determine how you eat it, how well it's going to turn out, and how many you're going to use, and all that other stuff. I always like to double the recipe, so which means I use 2 tortillas, corn tortillas at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and as you can see, that's the same pan we used for the shrimp itself. I'm going to use the same pan because it already has flavor and it already has everything in there. I'm just going to add extra oil in here so I can actually keep the flavor, use it to cook the shells. Shocking! So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put that on a medium heat, and I'm going to go ahead and let that warm up for just a moment. While I go ahead and get that ready, I'm going to go ahead and get all of my other stuff ready. So the stuff, and what I mean by stuff, is I'm going to go ahead and I have my Oaxaca cheese ready. I have my cilantro that I chopped up ready. And I'm also going to bring over the rest of the onions that I didn't use. Why? Because I'm going to put some cilantro. I'm going to put some onions. I'm going to put some Oaxaca cheese in there to complement the shrimp that we have. And then I'm going to put some of my red cabbage or my red lettuce in here, as I love to call it. I always grew up calling it red lettuce. And I'm going to put some of that in there at the end as garnish. And then we're going to use some of our salsa. We're going to have homemade salsa. We're going to have rice. And we're going to have our beans. And we're going to have a little Jack and Coke on the side because the chief needs a little something. All right, so we're going to go back. So we're looking at our pan, and it's already starting to bubble. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set you down again. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to use I again went to my local store and I got some of my tortillas. Who doesn't like homemade tortillas? I mean, to me, it's just a no-brainer. If you can get them homemade, great. If you can make them homemade yourself, teach me. I am always willing to learn. I want to learn how to make tortillas. I'm going to put this challenge out to you guys. If there's something that you want to see me make, I ask you to please put it out there, and I will look it up. I will look it up, and I will actually learn how to make it for actually our stuff specifically. So I'm going to go ahead, and I love to use my metal tongs, as I love to say. And I'm going to go ahead, and I don't like to use metal on this a whole lot, but I'm going to use it for these. So I went ahead and I just put one in there. But I am going to double the recipe. So I actually went ahead and just put one in there, but I'm going to double it up. And it doesn't have to be perfect, guys. I mean, for crying out loud, nothing's perfect. And I just want to make sure that I get the whole thing in there. So I'm going to let it cook like that for just a few moments. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back to my other stuff, and I'm going to make sure that it's cooking, that my rice is doing okay, because it's still sitting on the stove. And I also still have my beans, which I need to make sure that they don't burn and that they don't do anything crazy. So the beans will actually come out looking like that, and they have a little bit of cheese in there, as I stated previously. You just want to make sure that it's nice and melted and that you have all of that. As you can see, I have all of my other ingredients that I'm getting ready to make my tacos with. I'm going to go ahead and put those in there in just a few moments. Here's my rice. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. All right. And so here we go. We're going to go ahead and just... So I like mine to be brown on the outside. They don't have to be if you don't want them to be. Again, that was probably a horrible flip, but I don't care. It is what it is. My famous motto that a lot of people hate. It is what it is. And it is. Alright, so we're going to go back over here. I'm going to go ahead and put some of my cheese down, just so that way I can actually... Here, I'm going to take some of my cheese, just a pinch. And I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle it here. Put a little bit more on there. I'm going to take some of my cilantro, put some of that in there. Take some of my onions. And I'm actually going to lay my shrimp on top. So, depending upon how you like yours, this is just a sample of what I've got going on here. I'm not going to belabor this any longer. I'm just going to put it on here. And then I'm actually going to cover it with a little bit more cheese. And then I'm going to go ahead and move that just a little bit. I'm going to move it, and I'm going to actually fold it. That's why I put two on there, guys, because I know some of these tortillas are just not meant to handle it. And that's fine. So I'm just going to let that sit there for just a few moments, and I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to get my plate ready to eat, because I'm hungry. I don't know about you guys, but I'm hungry. I'm not just hungry, I'm hungry. And so let's go ahead and get this ready to go. So if you were at my place, this is what you would be eating right now. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get some rice. I'm going to set you down real quick. And we're just going to go ahead and make our plate. And I'm going to take you over here. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to flip it over. It's probably darkened just a little bit, but it's perfectly fine. And I can't do it with you hanging on to you, so I'm going to go ahead and set you down for just a moment. I'm going to flip it over just like that. Oh, and it looks pretty. It came out perfect. Here, I'll show you in just a moment. I'm going to get some beans, and we're going to call this a day. Beans with some of our homemade salsa. Alright guys, and I'm going to get some salsa. That's what we're looking at right now. This is dinner. Oh my god, and it smells amazing, guys. It really does. It smells amazing. Just going to put some of that on the side. If you want spinach, I would say use spinach. I'm just going to go ahead and get some of my salsa here. I'm going to take my salsa with me. I completely agree, Sherry. Please invite yourself over. I welcome anybody at my table, and maybe that's not a good thing, but if you're hungry and you need a place to eat, you are more than welcome at my table, because there's always more than enough room. And anybody who knows me knows that I won't ever turn you away. If you're hungry and you need a place to eat or something to eat, you have a place at my table. So I'm going to go ahead. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull this out. I'm setting you down, guys, because I need you to see this goodness. Oh, my gosh. Look at that gorgeousness. And I'm going to go ahead and bring over some of my salsa, my homemade salsa. Whew, and it's got a kick already. This is going to be great to clean out any sick sinuses, y'all. I'm serious. But it's great. I love it. But that's personal preference. So anyway, all right, guys. So that was our homemade salsa. That was our shrimp. That was our rice. And that was our beans. And you know what? And the chief already has a Jack and Coke ready. So let's dig in. Let's take a bite. All right, guys, that's it. That was a little longer than what we normally do, but the wait was so worth it. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you for your support, and happy eating. Good night.